Hey everybody, Shawn Tubbs here. Thanks for tuning in. This is the REVV Generator 100. It's a 100 watt 46L6 driven amplifier. It's got 5 12AX7s and an AT7 in the preamp section. It's a big, bold sounding amplifier. It's a 2-channel amp, but what you're going to get in channel 1 is a no compromise clean that can go from extremely clean to slightly pushed or crunchy via the crunch mode that's within that channel. And then on the second channel, that's going to give you your higher gain settings, and you're going to be able to choose between 3 different stages of aggression or gain, and we'll get into that into the demo. Now both these channels have their own sets of EQ. We'll get into that in the demo, as well as all the other features on the amp. You've got a bright setting for the crunch sound. You've got, as I mentioned, the aggression modes. You've got a fat and a bright setting for channel 2, as well as a contour switch. And then on both of the channels, you also have your 100 watt to 10 watt switch. Now everything that happens from the front panel of the amp can be done via foot switch. This thing is also completely MIDI controllable, which is amazing, but via the foot switch you can also store presets. So it's a very well thought out amplifier as far as how it switches. It does have an effects loop, and we'll get into that in the demo, as well as point out how these separate master volumes work, as well as the global settings, presence, and depth controls. So yeah, without further ado, let's get into the REVV Generator 100. Okay, let's get into some sounds. What I'm going to do on this, guys, I'm going to start on channel 1 with our cleanest sound, and then I'm going to bump to the crunch mode, which is still within channel 1, but you do get a separate crunch gain setting. And then we'll jump from channel 1 to channel 2, and we'll get into the higher gain sounds and also all the other various features on this amplifier. Now, everything I do from the front panel of this amp can be done via foot switch, and I am going to bounce back and forth between the two. I think for the most part, I'll stay on the front panel so you guys know what's going on. So let's listen to channel 1, the clean sound. Super bold, just big 100 watt 6L6 clean tone. Now let's get into the treble first. What I like about this treble is, obviously, as you turn it up and down, it's gonna turn the treble up and down, but it also tames and accentuates the high mids, and I'll show you what I mean. Like right now, We've got the treble off, and it's pretty chimey. It sounds really sweet, but as we back it down, it's gonna be a little bit warmer, but also just smoother. I really like that. When it's voiced that way, you're not just adding top end, you're also adding a little bit of upper mid character. Really sweet. Now, just real quick, I'll show you the mids. We'll cut them off. Scooped out mid thing. Let's go ahead and bump them all the way up. It'll get really fat. And then the bass is just really big. Here's the bass off. And I'll go ahead and dime it. So that is the clean channel, and it's designed to be very, very clean. Now, if you want to get a little bit more hair or crunch, that's where the crunch channel comes into play. And I'll go ahead and hit the switch on the front panel. Now everything turns green to let you know that you're in your crunch setting. Now, if you want a little bit more gain than that, you can start turning up the crunch gain setting. Now, if you want it to get really stingy, you have a switch that only works on the crunch channel, but it's called Crunch Bright, and it will bring a lot more of that stingy top end. And that can sound really great. So just to show you, I'll do it via the foot switch now. Here's the clean sound. And then we'll go to the crunch. Back to clean. So let's move over to channel 2. I'll do it from the front panel. Here's the switch. When you hit that switch, everything turns red to indicate that you're on channel 2, or the high gain channel. And here's how it sounds. Now, the way you're hearing it right now, I've got the gain dialed down just a bit, but before I start changing any of the EQ settings, I'm going to go ahead and just scroll through the aggression modes. You're going to have a blue aggression mode and a red aggression mode, and they're going to do different things. They're not only going to change how the gain structure is, but it's also going to change the EQ, and you'll hear it. So here's the blue aggression mode. I'm doing it from the front end of the amp. So more low end, more gain. Now what I'll do is I'll go to the red aggression mode. And then back to the regular setting. Now what I just did can be done via the foot switch. So once again, here's the first mode. Second mode. Or I should have said the blue mode, and then here's the red aggression mode. Now, the other thing you can do as well is turn on different options as far as how things are contoured. And for instance, I had the contour switch over here on. I'm going to leave it off. Now that's a subtle setting. When I turn it on, it's going to add a bit of upper mid bite. So for solos and things like that, it's awesome. Now, the other setting you have is called the fat setting, and it does exactly what you think. It's kind of a low end, or I should say low mid bump, as well as a mid bump. And the other thing you can do is you can add a bright switch. Now that's going to make the top end really stingy. So once again, so many tones that are so versatile without really even touching the EQ section yet. But with that in mind, that's where I have the treble set now. I'll put it at noon. Crank it up even more. Do the same thing with the mids. Here's the mids off. Crank them the other way. That adds a lot of really fat mid, but also a little bit of gain. And then of course the bass off. Bass all the way up. So really nice sounding EQ section, and really you could start, as with any really good amplifier, you should be able to start with everything at noon and have a pretty darn good sound, and then tweak from there. So for me, I liked a little bit less top end. So I thought that sounded great, maybe a little more bass, maybe a little less mid. Let's check out how much gain we can get. Now, obviously, I've got the gain set fairly low. Let's start cranking it. Here's the gain at noon. And this is without changing any aggression modes. So there's a lot of gain on tap. Now obviously if I go to the red aggression mode, so we've heard the fat, we've heard the bright, the contour, we've heard all these gain settings. The one thing I do want to show you is obviously this is a 100 watt amp, so it's loud. But you can hit the 10 watt switch, and you can do this on either channel. Check out how much quieter it is. Still sounds huge, but it's now at a very manageable level. And if you keep turning the master down, you can get it to basically whisper levels. But if you like having the master set where it is, because that does create a certain character, that's where that switch is going to come in really handy. I want to let you guys hear the effects loop. Now the effects loop is foot switchable and it sounds killer. I've got my Strymon timeline in it, and I've had it off this whole time, not the Strymon, but the actual effects loop circuit. So I'll go ahead and turn that on. I can do it via the foot switch or the front panel. Now I've got some delay in there. So that that sounds killer. Now the last thing I want to show you guys is, well, it's not the last thing, but one more thing I want to show you before I show you the global presence and depth is these master volumes, and you can toggle between them. So right now I'm on master volume 1. You can toggle either from the front panel or from the foot switch. So say you're loving this volume, shut the effects off, but you want just a little bit of bump for your solo sound. So not only can you control your levels via the channel, you have a channel level here and a channel level here, but you can also tweak your levels for solo settings especially, but really just to get the amp dialed in the way you want over here in the 2 separate master settings. Now, last but not least, you have a global presence and depth. So what I'll do is, yeah, we'll stay on this sound. I'll just roll the presence off. Then I'll crank it up. And then we'll do the same thing with the depth. Here's the depth off. Crank it up. So that is the REVV Generator 100. If you've got any further questions about it, go to the website and check it out. And as always, I really appreciate you guys tuning in, and we will see you next time.